Okay then, Paul. First of all, any new injury concerns ahead of the midweek game?
We've had one lad that unfortunately has felt something, certainly from the weekend, that wasn't aware of straight after the game. So he's not out, not ruling him out, but he's a concern and one that we'll have to check on first thing in the morning prior to travelling over to Stockport.
Yeah, for sure. And Ryan Taylor and Linnell John Lewis, how are they feeling?
Yeah, a little bit stiff, I think, but both fine. And I think, hoping to build on the minutes that they got at the weekend. I think I spoke after the game about some of the challenges that we'd faced going into it, and that was probably, I think, not mentioning the likes of them two, Max Wright as well. I've hardly had any training going into the game, so it was a big ask for them. But I think sometimes, you put in situations and it's literally you get on with it and try and make the best of what it is. And all three of those players contributed to the victory at the weekend, and I'm sure we'll be keen for more minutes and to get up to speed, more training. But we said realistically the first 3 games of the season, as it's turned out, is almost a case of getting through those, settling down a free week into I think it's a Torquay game, and get a bit more training into some of those players that really could do with it.
Yeah, you'll know a bit more about the squad, won't you, and the players you've got at your disposal and what they're capable of after these 3 games that come so thick and fast, I would imagine.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's still probably going to take longer than that, and I was speaking to someone earlier, and it was a conversation on Saturday, probably saying I think it'll be at least a month or so until we probably feel we're anywhere near, and that's all dependent on players' availability and fitness between now and then. But what we can't do and we won't accept is a lack of sort of effort and commitment towards performances along the way. And as we showed on Saturday, we still want to pick up results. It's just to try and get an overall gauge of, like I said, what I think we are and what suits us best. Whether I don't particularly like it, but unfortunately I feel that that's the position that we're in, and we'll see how it goes. It's an interesting one for me as manager, maybe trying 1 or 2 different things, and finding out about individuals still. But overall, delighted with the start. I say a start, the victory at the weekend, which at least keeps a good feeling around. And it was a great day on Saturday. I've been told I think there's 1,200 plus fans going tomorrow, which is absolutely fantastic support, and we'll try and give everything for those people and the ones that can't make the game.
Yeah, you mentioned that support there, and that away support that Grimsby Town do have. It'll be the first taste of that, won't it, for a lot of these Grimsby Town players?
Yeah, and genuinely that was part of my conversation with all the new players. And John McAtee this morning, he was on about his goal celebration. We were having a chat about that, and he says, I've never scored a goal in front of a crowd like that before. And I just kind of turned around to him and said, well, I told you. I said, I weren't lying to you, were? And he's like, no. And how good he felt scoring that goal in front of a crowd like that. And as I said, we spoke a lot as well about the away followings that we have, and we'll have, I'm sure, throughout the season. And like you just mentioned there, the lads are going to experience that for the first time, and it can only help spur them on. In difficult times, perhaps when they're starting to feel tired, and hopefully in some good times in the game.
Yeah, there's not much to rival Grimsby Town in terms of the away following in this division, really, is there?
No, I mean there are some big clubs, and I'm sure we'll get some teams come to Blundell Park with good followings. But we're certainly right up there, and like I say, it was one thing, well not one thing, but one of the things that I certainly took from my first spell with the club all those years ago was the amount of games that we went to in kind of the London area in particular, when we just outnumbered opposition which was a bit strange. You know, you're away from home in terms of facilities and pitch surroundings, but not certainly from a support point of view.
How's Giles Cope ahead of the midweek game?
He's been in today, trained, had a chat with him. Again, that's probably another one that'll be another conversation tomorrow. See how he feels, how he's getting on in terms of the food that he's consuming. You know, I want to try and be convinced the best I can that if he goes out there, I'm judging on kind of no excuses. And not have to again potentially use a sub that I don't really want to do if he did happen to start the game. So yeah, I have got a few decisions certainly to make ahead of the game, but he's certainly over the worst of it, that's for sure.
Good, yeah. So Stockport as a team, what kind of a challenge are you expecting?
I think it looks as though they've got a system to a degree that they want to work with. Do tweak it at times, more in the sort of middle of the pitch, but got some good players. You know, they're playing down the favourites tag. I totally understand why they're doing that, but I think ultimately they are. You know, I think that was set out kind of last season. They made the managerial change. I think there's the signing in particular of Paddy Madden at that time, hoping to try and get them, you know, promoted last season. Didn't quite happen. Was very, you know, it was a close game with Hartlepool that they were just on the wrong side of. But their intentions, you know, were clearly laid out, and nothing's changed. If anything, you know, they just get stronger. I know Quigley had to go off at the weekend, but a major signing that I'm sure will do very well for him in the division. And there's expectation at that football club. You know, I said I went there the first day of the season, didn't get off to the start they would have liked, but then followed that up a week after with a game that was on TV that I've watched, with a good away victory at Southend, who again will have their own ambitions of being at the right end of the table. So I'm sure they were very pleased with that, and will be looking to get the first home win of the season.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of the players there, Quigley and Madden, of course, was at Scunthorpe, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And they were doing a little bit better up the league. So there are players on paper that seem good for this division, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, another one that I haven't just mentioned there is Rooney, in terms of I think Player of the Year the last couple of seasons in the league. Started the season off with 2 goals in 2 games. You know, he's certainly a goal threat, a good footballer. And they've got a couple of other lads that I think in their positions you would say that they're, you know, right up there in terms of the best in the league. So we're under no illusions. It will be a really stern test for us, but one that, like I said, we go into in good spirits. And I'm genuinely kind of really interested of how the game's going to pan out. You know, I'm not at a stage yet, like I said, where I'm certain about. You're never quite sure because things, you know, there's another team and decisions or just a bad performance on the day, but not really sure still where we're at. So I'm interested to see how the lads respond to what will be a very big crowd with the away following we've just spoke about from our fans, and against a team that will be up there, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of transfer business, I know we only chatted about this a couple of days ago, but I know things do move fast at times. Has anything changed on your search for a couple of positions?
No, and that's basically the quickest and honest response. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, for sure. So nothing close.
No. In fact, I think I mentioned about there was one deal potentially that I was. And that looks like that's not going to happen, unfortunately. So, back to the drawing board at the minute.